Welcome back, tribe. I have an episode here from Large Man Abroad. I think we covered one of his episodes before, and he was another small channel, but he grew pretty big. Well, I would say quickly. 24,000 subs already. Don't remember what he had last time, but his numbers are shooting up and his videos are doing well. Again, I told you guys, if you have a voice and you have something interesting to share, some value to put out on a video, it works, man. Let's get into it.
More than this. And it was honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made. I don't regret my time in another country because in all honesty, it's fantastic. Even the bad days were some of the best days I've had. And I was fortunate enough to live in some places I only dreamed of. And I never thought that I'd actually go. Growing up as poor as I did, I never even had the dream of leaving this country. I always thought it was going to be something that was out of my reach, but it wasn't. And the first time I left America was right after I got out of the military. I just wanted to travel a bit because travel within the military is not so much fun. So to get out there and actually enjoy life and live my life according to me, it's just something that was very appealing to me. It is something, I don't know, as a man, I felt like I had to do. I just had to get out there and live. I didn't allow myself to live for a long time, whether that was responsibility that I had within my family to take care of people, or just like a great feeling of shame that I had if I were to leave the country and leave people behind, people who counted on me. There came a time in my life where I had to make the choice. Do I want to stay or do I want to go?
I left too, but my main priority was just retiring my family. I figured out that the money I give them every month plus my father's pension is just not enough to survive in America. So I made the steps to come out here to Europe first, see what it's like, but I'm coming back eventually. I mean, look, I grew up partially in Romania, partially in America, but my home will always be the USA. I came out here, found a woman, that wasn't the goal, but God, dating was just so much better overseas. The passport stuff, it's all true. As long as you work on yourself, get your mind, body, and your finances correct, you'll be good to go. The women are much better overseas. That's true. The people, the culture was much better. The food wasn't trying to kill me. The prices are cheaper. You can get by living here on almost nothing compared to what it is in the United States. I have my life there. I speak English. I'm Americanized. I am basically, in my own eyes, I am American. I just happened to be born in another country and spent part of my youth there, but I've lived so long in the United States. I built my life there, dude, and that's always going to be home for me. It's just why I bitch all the time about what it's falling short compared to places I've been to overseas. America should be the greatest country on earth with all the money we're making there, with all the money the government's taking from taxes there. But you do notice these discrepancies when you go overseas and go, hey, why are they doing that better here? And why are the streets and the cities here cleaner? And why is public transport so much better? Why is this food taste so much better? Why is it so much cheaper here, but they have less and the quality's worse? But somehow it's beating out the quality that they're asking. Luxury apartments in America, for example, are so expensive, but they're built like matchsticks. It's absolute garbage. But the normal apartments here are built so much better. I have not heard any of my neighbors since living at this spot ever, not once, in an area that's not considered luxury. Okay, could be, maybe, but their real luxurious areas just make America's look like, what the fuck, dude, for a third of the cost with way less money, with people here that don't even pay all their taxes to the government. I mean, they have problems collecting taxes in this country. You come to realize that the amount of taxes they're asking you, the government doesn't create wealth. The government actually doesn't create anything with the tax money. It just goes to fund some things. But the more taxes you give the government, the worse off the community gets, or whatever it is that the government's overseeing, at least with the current style of governments we have. A lot of these, like Dubai, for example, hardly collects any taxes, yet it's run far better than the United States is, as in city planning or safety and cleanliness goes, whatever. It runs better in that sense. Yes, they have their shortcomings and, poop trucks and God knows what, and you can make a fucking list. But the fact is, at least on the surface, there are not like fentanyl zombies walking around, hypodermic needles in the public parks. You could get shanked or shot at night anywhere. There's like basic requirements of a civilized society is starting to degrade in the United States, while asking us to pay more and more in taxes to fix the said problems they already have the budget to fix. That's the shit that pisses most Americans off when they go overseas.
And I chose to leave, and I don't regret that. And for anyone who's actually made the move outside the United States, I think most of them will tell you that there really isn't much to regret. Zin it up.
That's true.
From a very young age in America, we're taught about the grandness of America, how amazing it is, how there's no place in the world like it. And in many ways, this is true. Yeah. But as we grow up, that illusion that we internalized turns to disillusion, disenchantment, and eventually it resentment. I resent my country. I resent America for what it's become, for what it's done to a lot of people that I've known, for the opportunity that it's taken away, for the fact that there's so many of my brothers and sisters from the military who live on the streets now, and nothing is ever done about it. There's not really a care. Every now and then it's trotted out as a talking point, but no one actually cares. Maybe that's the cold reality of life, that we're all just kind of on our own. But I'm somebody who has a deep affinity for things like brotherhood and family. So to see the country actively turn away from the things that it taught me was the most valuable part of life filled me with a kind of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken me a long time to really digest that. And it wasn't really until I left America and started living long-term in these foreign places, these places that are supposed to be bad, these places that are supposed to be third world, that I realized that people from the third world often live more fulfilling lives than we ever will in America.
Yep.
There's a sense of gratitude in every daily action, every daily meal, every prayer, every moment that they get to spend with family because it actually means something to them still in their cultures. You realize that there's something that we have lost. And I don't know if we ever actually had it. Because the truth is, I can't remember when America was a great place.
Not in our lifetimes. That's the point. The gradual decline is so small on such a long time scale that it's not really realized in one generation. We can look back at videos of what America used to be like, what the cities used to look like, what the people were like walking around, and you see the cleanliness and the order that used to be versus what is today. And only then do you realize, like, holy fuck, we fell off pretty big.
Just remember the idea that was told to me. I remember what they said it was, but I never actually got to experience that. But I got to experience it in other.
I've seen the decline in my own neighborhood, guys, in America. We moved into a normal, say, like middle class neighborhood, lower middle class, probably neighborhood, subdivision, whatever you want to call it. And it was in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Northeast Atlanta, the metro area. And it was quiet. It was clean. There wasn't trash anywhere. It was like a typical 1990-something movie of what, like, lower middle class, whatever America looks like. Everybody took care of their lawns. Everything was well manicured and preened, all the bushes. The kids were outside constantly playing. There's like groups of girls walking around doing what girls did. Don't know what the fuck they were doing, hopscotch, whatever. And the boys were playing basketball or tag or football. And the neighborhood was buzzing. You know, the neighbors were outside watering their lawns, saying hello to one another. It was that. That was like quintessential America. That same neighborhood today, before my parents sold that shit and came out here and reorganized their lives. Dude, one of the houses got raided by police for drug dealing and they arrested like 6-7 dudes. The bushes and shit, the grass is not well kept. Only some people are keeping their grass cut at an even level. The neighbor next door shit was just like growing fucking weeds everywhere. Trash. The neighbor next door has like 12 fucking cars there and they converted their garage into another living room and there's like 3-4 fucking families living there. And just trash is like blowing over and shit from the overfilled dumpster. Or trash bin, excuse me. It's fucking, dude, that place went from nice to shithole in the span of 15 years. 15 years, that's all it took to completely degrade what was once a beautiful neighborhood.
Their places.
Imagine what's been going on to America in the last fucking 100.
There's something incredibly freeing about going to another country and leaving everything behind. Truly being on your own in a way that you make your own self. The reputation that you have is fresh. It's new. And it's the decisions and the actions that you make in these new places that determine how people are going to treat you, how they're going to look at you. And the baggage that you've carried around your whole life, whether fair or unfair, isn't there anymore. It is a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in many ways, that's what people like. People yearn for a fresh start. And what better thing can there be than to have a fresh start in a new world, in places where history meets the exotic. For anyone who watches my content knows that I have a deep affinity for Greece and Greek culture, Greek history. I have a degree in archaeology. It's something that I've always loved. And when I was a young kid in a broken home, all I had was my history books and movies to provide me with a kind of escapism that became real when I put my feet on the soil of.
Pretty cool to visit Greece and see all those ancient Greek structures and shit. I was in Athens. Part of the city's really dirty and old, but the tours that we did around all those ancient Greek buildings were amazing. And the beaches are still beautiful. Greece is Greece. Imagining what that was like back in its heyday, in its prime when everything was new, freshly constructed. It's a wild, wild thing to imagine.
These ancient places. I love Greece for that. And I'm thankful to Greece for that. More than that, traveling around Europe, traveling around Southeast Asia, Seeing different places in the Middle East, being able to touch the history and exist in cultures that are supposed to be enemies of mine, in cultures that are supposed to be foreign and dangerous and unfriendly to Americans. I've never seen more hospitality than when I'm in those places. I walk down the street in America and I say hello to people, and people look at me like I'm weird, make eye contact with them, and they think maybe it's a threat. In the rest of the world, I can walk around and say hello, and I get a hello back. A smile is met with another smile.
That adversarial attitude, man, it's not just between men and women in the West anymore. It's just between everybody. The hate thy neighbor that's become quintessential in American politics. You know, this red versus blue rhetoric is so radical in America. Here in Europe, it's just us versus the politicians. It's a class war. We all understand that. So it's like whatever party gets voted in, everybody calls them corrupt cocksuckers. Nobody cares. They're not going to make any changes. They make false promises and buy votes by giving people little fucking trinkets, which they never, actually fulfill once they're voted in. So the average person on the street isn't looking at each other sideways like, how could you vote for this person? It's like, oh, we're all getting fucked and screwed over, and our votes don't mean anything, and this democracy is a piece of shit, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, hey, let's grab a coffee. Hey, what are you eating today? Hey, Boa. And people sit down, enjoy a nice coffee. There's the cafe culture with the beautiful terraces. The streets are all walkable. There's not cars zooming by at 50, 60 miles per hour, loud as shit, right? The city's constructed to be walkable, and public transport's nice. That part of the culture I will miss when I come back. Absolutely. To come back to the fucking hellscape that is American parking lots and like, let's enjoy a nice coffee at Starbucks that tastes like dog shit acid, and then sit down on the terrace to stare at an empty, vast array of American parking lots. So beautiful. Great. That shit's depressing. But luckily for me, I don't drink that garbage, and I love the outdoors, which America is abundant in. Very beautiful nature. And honestly, for the people, don't give a shit anymore, because nobody wants to be talked to. Nobody wants to have conversations. Unless you go to like small boony towns where they're still, a little bit backward on all that, not antisocial just yet. And I don't even want to say backward, but still grounded in reality, man. Still humble people, still making a living, still based in reality, not addicted to the internet and fucking brain rot, terminal fucking TikTok brain diseases and all that shit. But it has gripped a bunch of people in the West.
Smile. And people aren't as fickle as they are in America. They're not as changeable. Usually because they have some kind of moral anchoring that comes from being raised in tight-knit families that we don't have in America, not anymore. So even in the normal day, there's still beauty in the mundane. People take moments out of their lives during the day, even while they're working, to show appreciation, whether that be through religion or just having a text or call to a family member, a close friend. Conversations more than just the banal, more than just the superficial. It seems to me that the connections that people make in other countries are meant to be strengthened over time. It's not what's best for me now or what I can get out of it. There's something about American mentality that's opportunistic in nature, and I resent it. Because I'm somebody who was raised without, I resent that level of selfishness. And I know that I'm a hypocrite because I'm still sometimes a very selfish person. But being outside of America long enough allows you to break down these negative aspects of yourself, because you see yourself and your own actions through the reflection of other people. And in America, where everyone is so selfish, when everyone's so full of themselves, this is justified because my actions are the same as their actions. My selfishness is the same as their selfishness. But in many other,
this is what we're lacking. We don't have a sense of community anymore. No communal drive, no civic duty. People don't feel like, because look, nobody owns their own homes anymore. Imagine, dude, if you had roots planted and that house across the street where he's living is yours, you own it, or actively working to own it with your mortgage. Imagine everybody in the neighborhood owns their properties, owns their cars. You have skin in the game. You want your community to look nice. You have kids. Kids make you forward thinking. Now you have multiple generations, multiple decades in the future that, hey, community's got to be safe. What's with all this crime going? Hey, that dirty part of town? Why? That's not safe for our kid. You start to wonder about things. You start to actually have responsibility on the government constantly of like fixing shit, maintaining things. Then you have this need of like, dude, should I run for council here in the city? Because like, this shit needs to get fixed. That's gone. Nobody owns their homes anymore. People are barely holding their heads up above water month to month. They're constantly forced to move from apartment to apartment trying to find the next cheapest place. So you have nothing ties you to that soil that makes you want to make sure that, hey, my garden is nice and beautiful. My flowers are blooming on nothing, bro. It's like, hey, I'm here temporary. I'm just passing by. We all feel like passerbys. That's the problem. That's the feeling that you're just a passerby in this community just trying to make it. So you don't care if it's beautiful or not. You don't care how dirty the fucking public park is and why there's homeless people everywhere, the drug dealing happening on the street corner. Who gives a fuck, bro? This is not mine. I own nothing here. I'm passing by. That's what it feels like. So people treat each other like passerbys instead of, hey, that's my neighbor. Hey, that's a member of my community, member of my church, member of my whatever. We're no longer members of anything. We're passing by. And that is exactly why we treat each other the way we do in America. That feeling is non-existent. Any American that has traveled overseas will tell you just how welcoming people are, despite not having as much in material possessions or salaries. But the communal, the brotherhood is what causes them to have such a fulfilled life, like he was saying, and be so welcoming. Yeah. This guy says this country feels like one big Amazon warehouse. It's disgusting. USA is a corporation, not a country. The difference is America decided its economy superseded its society. I told the American how canceling funds for cancer research is bad because it will save kids in the future. This whole argument was not with my tax dollars. A culture and a society like that will eventually collapse. Born in the South, I've seen our society change from being friendly to being distant to downright rude. I'm 62 and really miss the warmth of my childhood. After I sold my house in Virginia, I lived out of hotels all over the U.S. for 1 year. The stories I could tell. But in a nutshell, the amount of fighting and yelling I was forced to listen to from other, quote, guests is unbelievable. I stayed at over 60, 70 plus hotels in the U.S. and probably can count on one hand the number of positive experiences I've had. I'm telling you, Americans are falling apart. Anyways, I finally completed my move to southern Brazil last November. I've been living out of hotels in Posadas, a small mom and pop owned apartments. Okay, Posadas. Since arriving, and I can't believe the difference. No yelling, no fighting, just a lot of laughter. Brazilians are a happy bunch. Just the other day, I could hear the owner of the posada laughing it up next door to my apartment. I went outside and down in the valley, and I could hear another guy laughing the same time as the owners. The difference is absolutely amazing. Anyway, I'm going to settle soon on a farm I made an offer on, and will finally get my own place. There you go. But I will never forget the difference between the USA and Brazil. Oh, I spent last August traveling around Italy. No yelling or fighting there either. America and Americans are a mess. You only figure this out when you leave. I know the inner patriotism is spawning a caw with a fucking dual machine gun bald eagle, but until you go overseas and see how much you're being shortchanged by the government, you do not hate your government enough. Believe me. It's crazy. Thank you for your insightful works. I just moved back to Sweden after 14 years in Los Angeles. My wife and I loved California, but something happened to the U.S. Gone was the friendliness. Gone was the neighborliness. Everyone talked about money and possessions. No one talked about what was really important. This one says George Carlin had this country figured out 40 years ago. Yep. And this country is all about money. If you don't have it, you're screwed. I'm 35 years old and lived in the U.S. In 2024, I traveled to Egypt, Turkey, Mexico, and Cuba. Before that, in 2022, I visited the UK, Spain, Italy, Germany, France. From all my travels, I learned that people in Cuba and Mexico seem happier than those in America. I felt more financially free while I was there. When I came back, I realized I don't know anyone in my apartment complex. People here seem to only care about themselves, and I feel like many in the U.S. live with empty souls. I also noticed that conversations often lack depth. Most people only talk about sports and work. Yeah, I didn't know anybody when I was living in the apartment complexes because I'm a passerby. That's not mine. Once my lease is up or if they try to increase rent on me next year, I'm gone. So who gives a fuck about me making friendships with people that are temporarily in your life?